Will Binance be the next FTX? Well, this seems to be the question on everyone's mind right now because Binance just had nearly $3.5 billion in withdrawals in a 24-hour period, which then caused them to halt the trading of USDC, which is one of the largest stablecoins in crypto. Now, I think that there is a clear answer to this question, and all of the evidence seems to be pointing in a single direction. And in this video, I want to explain exactly what I think the most likely outcome for Binance is. Now, despite all of this happening in the market, one thing to note is that crypto, specifically Bitcoin as the leader of crypto, is moving fairly well to the upside. In fact, over the course of the last 2 days, Bitcoin is up over 5%, and it's up 2% today alone, breaking major resistance levels like its previous support as well as the 50-day moving average. Now, we're going to explain everything that's happening here on both Bitcoin and Binance, so if you are interested in what we have to say, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. But let's start things off here with Binance, because Binance's CEO, Mr. CZ, says that deposits are coming back into Binance, but he sees a bumpy road ahead for the crypto firm. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there has been a little bit of shade thrown back at Binance. There seems to be US regulators or US players that are throwing shade at Binance, questioning what is happening behind the scenes, and people got scared and they started mass withdrawing their funds from Binance. Now, the difference here between Binance and FTX is that Binance handled all of this fairly well. In fact, CZ came out and said that this wasn't even one of their top 5 withdrawals that they have seen on their exchange. So he says, yeah, it was a lot of money, but it didn't even breach the top 5 of how much money has been withdrawn from Binance in the past. And this is the tweet of him saying that. In fact, in this specific tweet, he says, things seem to have stabilized. Yesterday was not the highest in withdrawals that we processed, contrary to popular belief, and it wasn't even in the top 5. We processed more during the Luna or FTX crashes, and now what we're seeing is that a large amount of deposits are coming back in, as we have shown our ability to be able to support this much in withdrawals. So right now it looks like the numbers are between around $3.5 billion to $4 billion in withdrawals. Now, granted, this was saying that it was $1.4 billion, but that number has since increased. But it looks to be that the number was several billion dollars in withdrawals, which, again, Binance was able to hold and was able to give out. Now, the thing that spooked people was that Binance was temporarily halting something called USDC, which is one of the largest stable coins in the world. Now, this was just a temporary halt so that they could carry out a token swap, and trading on USDC resumed 8 hours later. Again, this was also something that we did not see from FTX. FTX halted a number of assets until they went bankrupt and then locked everyone's funds. Here, all trading pairs look like they are back to normal on Binance. They only had one stable coin that they temporarily had to restrict, which they then resumed pretty much the same day. So what's the difference here between FTX and Binance? Is Binance going to be the next FTX? Well, it doesn't appear to be so. If they are able to handle this much in withdrawals and say that they have done significantly more in the past, in fact, what we just saw didn't even breach the top 5, then it looks like they're going to be able to be safe. Now, I think that CZ is right. I think that they do have a bumpy road ahead, but they've proven already that they are not like FTX, or at least not in the same boat as FTX, because they have been able to process significantly larger amounts of money than FTX ever was. They were not only able to survive the FTX crash, the Luna crash, but now their own Binance crash, as I guess you could call it. So are things the same? Not at all. They have been able to withdraw a ridiculous amount of money, survive multiple major crashes, and even specific attacks against Binance. They've even had attacks against some of their synthetic assets, which they've done very well through as well. So overall, it seems like no matter what is getting thrown at Binance and CZ, they are dealing with it, processing withdrawals, and moving on. So is there a bumpy road ahead? Probably. Does it look like they're going to stay safe? It certainly does, at least for the time being. Now, maybe some crazy new information comes out in a week or a month or a year from now, and this could all change. But with the information that we have available to us right now, everything seems to be fairly fine for Binance in the immediate future. Now let's talk about what's happening over here on Bitcoin, because we talked about, despite all of this craziness happening on the news of Binance and just in the macro of crypto right now, Bitcoin is moving fairly well. In fact, if we want to go ahead and take a look at Ethereum as well, Ethereum is moving up pretty solid as well. Granted, not nearly as much as Bitcoin. But if we go and look at what Bitcoin is doing as the leader of crypto, for the bulk of this year, we have seen a pretty steady trend of our previous bottom working as our next top. And let me explain what this means, because I've mentioned it in a few of my videos already. But what this means is that after Bitcoin tends to find a bottoming area where it likes to use as support, following the break of this bottoming area, it comes back up, and where it was previously seeing support, it then saw resistance. And we've seen this happen time and time and time again on Bitcoin's chart. In fact, for the entirety of this year, we've seen this. And so now what we're seeing on Bitcoin is the exact same thing come into play. However, Bitcoin is now starting to see a breakthrough into this previous support level. So the previous bottom range that we saw around $17,500 to $18,500 was our previous bottom. And guess what? That's where Bitcoin is breaking up to right now at 18.1K. So if there's any area of resistance on Bitcoin, it's going to be around this area. Now, is this the time that everything changes for Bitcoin and that it's able to break this 1 year cycle that it's had for the last 12 months or so? I surely hope so. We don't have any evidence that it has broken yet. In fact, we haven't even really gotten through this resistance level in its entirety. There still is more resistance above here, but I think watching how Bitcoin reacts to this specific range is going to be one of the most important things that traders and analysts can look at the moment, because this is kind of deciding, are we going to continue to this pattern? Are we going to continue to the downside? Or is this fourth or fifth time that we're on now going to be the time where things are different and where Bitcoin can ultimately break up? Because if Bitcoin sees a breakout, the odds are many of the altcoins will see breakouts as well. So if there's one thing to watch out for as we are heading into the second half of this week, maybe even next week, watch how Bitcoin reacts to this level. And I think that that's going to be a key one for everyone to look at. My eyes are set on that 200-day moving average. I want to see Bitcoin finally break that level. It has been way too long. The last time that Bitcoin has even tested this level was all the way back in late March of this year in 2022. So I want to see a break of that. It's been way too long since Bitcoin has tested it. And I think it's about time that we could maybe potentially see a retest of that 200-day moving average. But ultimately, time will tell. Now, in our final news article, I want to leave everyone with a bit of good news. I guess the whole me believing that Binance will survive was fairly good news. But in more good news, more straightforward good news that has less anticipation, major Japanese utility works are working with, man, that is a tongue twister, with local hardware maker to capitalize on excess power in crypto mining. The utility behind Fukushima nuclear reactor is trying out crypto mining. So what does this mean? What does this mean at the end of the day that Japanese utility workers are trying to capitalize on excess power? And how in the world is the Fukushima nuclear reactor going to support crypto mining? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with this, we have seen this pretty much across the globe at this point, where major power plants tend to have excess power. And what happens is, after they have supplied their entire city or their town or whatever they're trying to supply power to, after they have supplied everyone that needs power with power, they are still creating energy. And so a lot of the time, there's just energy that is wasted. And so the idea behind this is that excess energy that would otherwise just be completely thrown to the side and wasted for nothing is going to be rerouted into cryptocurrency miners. And so this becomes a sustainable way to not waste energy and also support the ecosystem of crypto and blockchain tech. And so although the number of proof of work miners are becoming less popular as things like proof of stake and other validation methods are becoming increasingly more popular, this is a way for these proof of work projects to get essentially clean mining out of this. So energy that would previously been wasted because they don't need it, because everyone already has power, they're going to be rerouting that energy into cryptocurrency miners for things like Bitcoin. Now, ultimately, again, we have seen this. We've done multiple reports of how this is being used in the States, in Russia, in Europe, pretty much across the board. There are a number of other companies and countries that are already doing this. But it's cool to see that even Japan, with some of their biggest reactors for the entire Tokyo electric power grid, could be going ahead and saying, hey, we've seen this work in other countries. Now we want to try this out for ourselves. So just something to keep an eye on. Just a bit of good news to lighten up everyone's day. But I hope all of you did enjoy this video. Hopefully this gave you just a little bit of reassurance about the Binance situation. They seem to be doing a good job so far. They've been processing a mad amount of withdrawals over the course of the last couple of days. And, is this belief that, maybe people have a vendetta for Binance kind of leading to the FTX crash, and maybe there are ill figures out there that are trying to cause Binance to crash as a result. And so while that is just speculation, there are a couple of theories that are circulating out there. But I hope everyone stays safe throughout all this crypto craziness. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And until Friday, I will see you all very, very soon.